Today I want to talk about what I'm going to do for the homeschool year for my 4th grader and my 8th grader. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you know they are going to be doing a lot together. Very little or will they be doing separately. So let's talk about it all. What you see? Huh? What you see? Are you my guard dog? You just make sure you don't bark during my video. I got a lot to talk about today. Somebody is just walking a little innocent baby. What's the threat, Bella? She makes it really difficult to record videos in the summertime because there's always walkers outside. If you saw this video, Learn Math Fast, you know that is what they are both starting the year off with. Check out that video for more details. I do plan, however, to move my 4th grader back to Singapore Math once we get to long division from Learn Math Fast. And then at that point, I might have her try to do both, because Learn Math Fast can really be a supplement. In fact, from that video, one of the questions that I was getting from several of you was, is that curriculum standalone for a 1st grader or a 2nd grader or a 3rd grader? On their website, they really say, no, not for that young of an age. You do need to have a supplemental math curriculum because they don't teach things like telling time. There's a few math concepts that Learn Math Fast does not touch that another math curriculum may, and plus at that age they really need a lot more practice to solidify. But for the older ages like junior high and high school, when they've already had a math curriculum, then you can use it to go back and review everything and make sure that all the gaps are filled and concentrate on the ones that you're struggling with. So check out that video for details about that. For science, I got nothing to show you here because if you watched this video where I was talking about the things that we're going to do together as a family, you know, during our family co-op, we're going to be doing campfire curriculums, meteorology unit. At Christmas time, we're going to be doing Christmas unit from campfire curriculum, so I'm not sure if there might be science stuff in there. But the science plan for this year is very loose because I want it to be super flexible. So here's what we're going to do. My high schooler is doing a brand new curriculum from Master Books called Intro to Forensic Science, CSI stuff. He's going to have labs at least once a week, if not twice a week. So I thought it would be cool for my daughters, like when he's doing fingerprints or any sort of that kind of stuff, that it would be fun for them to do it along with him. I know that science curriculum calls for a microscope, so at some point they'll be looking at probably blood. I would guess you might look at a microscope. I don't know what kind of things he'll be looking at, but I think that they would be interested to join along in that where we can. And if it doesn't end up working out and those science experiments end up being too much, then I have behind me here, I have all kinds of science kits, like forming your own volcano, like a bottle rocket, like making crystals. I also still have the Good and the Beautiful science units that I've never gotten to because we just go through science really slow, because I consider going on hikes and nature walks and things of that nature science. And so we especially like going on hikes in the fall because we have a state park that's pretty close to us. So we like to go there frequently, especially when the leaves start changing color. So there's all kinds of things we can do for science, and that would be super easy for me to fill in last minute. But the main science plan is going to be the campfire curriculum.
Oh, and I almost forgot.
We're joining an actual co-op this year in our area, but they are going to have science courses through that also. I know my older daughter, she's going to be doing a STEM-related science course, and my younger one is doing something with ocean animals, I think. So they're going to get science every single week from either family co-op meteorology or their own co-op, and then hopefully join in on the science experiments with my son.
We got science covered.
History and social studies. So last year, my history plan was through the early church history that we do in our morning time. Check out this video about our morning time because it's going to be the same. We did not finish everything from the Bible story and early church history and the Faithopedia. We didn't even come close to finishing all that stuff last year. I had enough in that plan that it wasn't the same every single week. We're not bored with it. We're going to keep doing that. So they'll get history there from the early church history. In fact, yeah, I think that video is the most detailed, but you could also check out this video over here where I explain the Faithopedia and what my plan was. And then I have missionary stories that we still haven't read yet, and that's got history in it. It's got church history. It's good. It talks about country. It talks about country's culture at that time. It's good stuff, and it's easy to incorporate map work. So with any kind of history, map work is important for learning geographical things, especially drawing maps, tracing maps, having to label maps. All of that, you don't even realize how much you're learning. And I just saw from one of my friends on Instagram, Morgan at the Dove's Nest. I think her child had drawn a map and then they used watercolor to color it in. I thought,
Watercolor.
why didn't I ever think of that? So now I got a new activity to add to my map list. Okay, and then the Christmas unit study that we're doing, I know is going to have history in it also. So history's covered. We got it covered. I didn't have to buy anything new. Except, I guess, if you consider campfire curriculum, I did buy that. The other thing, now this one is only for my junior higher. At some point, I'm like crossing my fingers, you guys, that she can handle more work this year. You know the struggle that I've had. ADHD is a challenge. But she's growing up. I think she can handle this. We'll see how it goes. When my son was in 8th grade, I had him do a study of our state. We live in Illinois, and I bought this unit study off of Teacher Pay Teacher that's all about Illinois. And since it's digital, I still have it. So I decided I'm going to make that my 8th grade project. So every single one of my children will have that as their project. Check out, I know this is like one of my first years as a YouTuber, but my son did talk about the project in this video here if you want to see his review of it. But it had a lot of variety. You get to look up on the internet things like the state flower, populations of certain regions. It does have kind of a brief overview of the entire country first and the regions before it gets into your state. It's got pre-statehood stuff. What's the most interesting period in the state's history? Man, we're going to see how this goes. This might have to be a project that she works on in high school, because giving her free access to the internet and her being diligent to research this without needing much of my help, I'm telling you, I'm crossing my fingers. We'll see how it goes. I will not be afraid to cut this if it's too much from her, but I really hope she can do it, because it has references here to the Civil War and how our state might have been involved. So what was Illinois' role in the Civil War, World War I, studies, stuff about our governor, a famous scientist, a famous artist from your state. So just all kinds of interesting things to look up and research and document. I know my son enjoyed it when he was in 8th grade. Have I mentioned I really hope my daughter can do it? So that would be her history. Okay, grammar and writing. If you saw my IEW huge haul video, you know that they're doing phonetic zoo. I'm not going to talk about it here because I talked about it in that video. So check out the video about phonetic zoo. No matter what level they're on, same cards, just different lists for each of them. And this curriculum is fairly independent, which is why I chose it. I chose so many teacher-intensive things this year. I needed one thing that they could definitely do on their own. I talked about how we're going to attempt to do teaching the classics together. I know this is a curriculum mainly to teach me how to help facilitate discussion of literature, but I definitely would like my high schooler and my middle schooler to watch this with me and us do it together. So we'll see how that goes. All things fun and fascinating, writing curriculum. And then here's really what I want to talk about with you guys, because I mentioned multiple times about me doing their writing and grammar together. They're also going to be doing Fix-It Grammar, which I talked about in the IEW video. I am going to do our language arts this year, teaching them kind of together, kind of how Classical Conversations does it. So when I was a part of Classical Conversations, I was an essentials tutor, and here's how it worked. Once a week for 24 weeks. So 24 weeks, guys. The essentials class at Classical Conversations was 2 hours in the afternoon. It was 45 minutes for grammar, 30 minutes for math games, which is like practicing your math facts and speed drills and stuff. For the last 45 minutes was doing the IEW writing. So I'm going to format once a week the same way as an essentials class from Classical Conversations. For the grammar part, I actually still have my essentials program from Classical Conversations. I have it all divided out here by 24 weeks. I'm pretty sure this is what I'm going to teach and how I'm going to teach it, to go through all the sentence diagramming, because you're teaching a new grammar element and then eventually you're teaching them how to diagram it. My kids have been introduced to diagramming now through The Good and the Beautiful. Every single one of my kids, from what they've been shown from diagramming, have enjoyed it. I did notice from The Good and the Beautiful 5 last year that when my 13-year-old was doing, it was still pretty easy, which is fine. But I just know from doing the Classical Conversations, because they repeat this curriculum 3 years in a row from 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. They repeat the exact same curriculum. So this curriculum starts out easy, but by week 24, they're diagramming compound complex sentences. Now for 4th graders, they're probably not going to be able to do it, but the 4th graders are at least learning the concept. By the time they're in 5th grade, maybe they can grasp a little bit more. By the time they're in 6th grade, they're the ones going to the whiteboard to diagram those very complex sentences. So I just thought I would test my kids this year. Rather than me teaching a class of 12, it would be me teaching a class of 2, just to see what they can do. But I also bought, because I want to do, my son likes sentence diagramming too, so I thought I would incorporate this maybe into our morning time, definitely into our family co-op day. He can join in wherever he can. But I've mentioned this before, I bought Diagramming the Scriptures. This is a lot thicker book than I expected. There are some discrepancies between how this teaches it to how I know Classical Conversations teaches it, since I have experience and I'm pretty confident in diagramming since I was a trained tutor. I'm probably going to stick to the CC way and I'll modify this way. But if you've never diagrammed before and you don't have a Classical Conversations curriculum to pull from, this is actually very detailed in teaching. So if you are interested in learning more, very thick. It starts out super simple and it has lots of practice. So I was going to do this on a daily basis to incorporate with my kids. There's 35 lessons here. So I figured as long as you get through one lesson a week, you'll get this curriculum done. So the very first lesson is recognizing nouns. I'm going to give you an idea. So the very first lesson, we're recognizing nouns, different types of nouns, just talking about that, recognizing action verbs, and then diagramming subject, verb, sentence patterns. God provides. Adam sinned. This is also in Classical Conversations. Before they even got to this part, they would be talking about subject, predicate. The predicate is anything after the subject. So the predicate can include all kinds of parts of a sentence. The subject is pretty much the thing that's doing. And then this is how you diagram. So it starts out very simple. If you're familiar with The Good and the Beautiful at all, you've probably seen this. This is a very simple sentence diagramming where you separate subject, verb. So see, it starts out simple, but by the end, this is what I'm excited about because I'm a big nerd, especially when it comes to sentence diagramming. I just absolutely love it. I think it's so fun. And whenever I see a very long, complex sentence in the scripture, I'm like, I want to diagram it. So part of this is for me. If my kids end up losing, this isn't even the last lesson, but you can see how much more complex that is. But it reminds me of IEW. It starts out very easy, +1. The next lesson is the +1. Start out easy, master the easy, and then we'll add the next element and just see how far you go. If my kids struggle and are, stuck on this, then we'll hang out on this for a while. We don't have to move ahead. I don't have to finish this year. This is just for all of our learning. There is nothing that says you have to finish a curriculum in a given year. The other thing that I'm incorporating into our language arts kind of week, because I'm going to teach the class, and then throughout the week they'll be working on their paper, they'll be practicing sentence diagramming every day, they'll be doing another little project as part of their independent work. I've talked about this before very, very, very early on in my YouTube career, so if you weren't around in the very early years, you may not know this, but interactive grammar notebook. I bought this for the 2020-2021 school year. It was the first school year that I had not been a part of CC in a long, long time, and so I bit off a little more than I could chew that year, and this was one of the things that got ditched early on. So we still have never done it, but this is for grades 4 through 8. My little one is finally in 4th grade, and my middle child is 8th grade, so this is perfect for them. An interactive notebook, you take a composition notebook, so you could see for whatever grammar element we're doing, it has a little activity. Okay, so it has instructions here for me to teach them. I made copies of the activity for both of my girls, so I will hand them this copy, and then here's what they're going to do. They're going to cut out the little elements here and put them together, and they're going to glue them inside their composition notebook, and it's going to help them think about the concept they're learning, plus it's kind of a fun little artsy craft project, and when the whole notebook's done, they'll get to go back and look at it, and it'll be fun to review what they're learning. This cookie sandwich here is all about simple and compound sentences. So you can see the top part, one part of the cookie is simple sentence 1, simple sentence 2 is the top part, and what are they joined with? Comma and a conjunction or a semicolon. So that's a compound sandwich. So I just thought that this might be a fun little kinesthetic thing that they could do to reinforce what we're learning. You might be asking, or maybe you're not asking, but I'm going to tell you anyway. This is a lot more to coordinate than a classical conversations essentials class. I did have to make my own matrix plan. I noted like which lesson here taught which element, same thing with diagramming the scriptures so that it could correspond with the classical conversations lesson that we're doing. So I have a rough plan to make sure that all of these things can meld together. I'm not going to share that with you in this video. Maybe if I do a future video on how I lesson plan, then I'll share it with you then, because I'm holding this essentials class loosely. If I have to stray from it or modify it from the beginning, I will. And I just really sometimes sharing my plans with you guys makes me feel a little bit anxious, because I know that if I can tell within the first few weeks this is too much or it's not working the way I thought, I'll modify it right away, and then I feel guilty for having told you what I was going to do. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to share with you my plans until I know my plans are working. I know you guys will forgive me. If it doesn't work, you'll hear it in my mid-year review, right? And if it does work, well then maybe I'll share with you the details so you could do it too. Okay, so I talked about already teaching the classics. We're also going to be learning a bit of poetry from the family co-op. I talked about it in this video, what we're doing for our family co-op. I also talked about the Phantom Tool Booth is going to be one of our read-alouds at the end of the year. We're doing a lap book. And I'm also going to just let my daughters choose the literature that they want to read. I haven't decided if we're just going to go to the library and I'll let them get a book based on their interests, or in the not consumed reading journals, which I'm going to show you here in a minute. The not consumed reading journals has book list recommendations. I might just say, you can choose what you want to read, but it has to be from this book list. So I haven't quite figured out their reading yet, except for, yes, they are going to be reading. Let me show you real quick the literature guides. I showed this one last year in my video. My younger one still has not gone through all of it, so she's just going to continue in this one. I love this reading journal. I love how colorful it is. By the way, I will link Not Consumed below. Please use my link so they know who sent you, but they have such awesome products and resources, affordable too. But I absolutely love these reading journals. This was new from last year. I don't think they had a digital version last year, but I know they have a digital version this year. So if it's something you would like and you have a large family and you want to reuse it over and over and over again, or you have an avid reader and this just isn't enough pages for you, you might want to get the digital version. But one thing that I really, really like about it is how much variety is in it. And it does split out some of the exercises for fiction versus nonfiction. So you might have to help your child figure out what the right one is to do. But here's just an example. It lets them rank it. It lets them say how long they read. It gives them just something really kind of cool to think about every single time, just so that to help them think about what they've read. Because if they're struggling with reading comprehension, I've always struggled with that. Sometimes you can read it and then you set the book down and you're like,
I don't even remember what I read.
Right? Is there anybody else like that? So the Not Consumed has reading journals for every age level. That was the elementary one. They have one for junior high. So this one is from my junior high daughter in her binder. You can see it says for ages 6 through 8. So it's got a little bit more detail here. This is also split up by biography, autobiography. They have pages for fiction books. They have pages for nonfiction books. It just depends on what kind of book they're reading. I got the digital version again, so if my daughter decides she's only going to read nonfiction and she runs out of the pages that I've already printed, then I can print her some more nonfiction pages. That's what I love about the digital version. Just very different every single day, every single assignment, and even an essay assignment. So this could maybe be part of your writing curriculum. If your children are comfortable with writing and you want to practice some of your elements of writing, but you want a different kind of assignment, you could do the reading assignment to the Bible study. So this year, besides morning time, which check out that video again for what we're doing for morning time, I decided I'm going to do a personal study with my teenagers because the time is short and they need individualized attention. They need guidance to help them discern from right and almost right. They need help understanding lies that they're being told that sound good, but they're not right. One of my nieces, newly married, young mother, I was going for a walk with her this summer and I was sharing with her some of the challenges of raising a teenage daughter that I was going through. She suggested this book that she had read, that she had done in a women's Bible study that I was not a part of, but she was a part of it. And it was this book by Sarah Malley, Speak Truth in Your Hearts. And it comes with this journaling workbook to go along with the book. So the premise of this book is the lies that women are told and what the Bible says. So here's an example here. Lie, I'm basically a good person. We hear that one a lot, right? The truth, there is none righteous, not even one. I mean, these pages have so many lies and truths. It's also got some illustrations in here. Sarah Malley, I know she's spoken at the ARC conferences before. She's been at homeschool conferences that I've been to. You've probably heard of her. She wrote the book Before You Meet Prince Charming. So she's been around the homeschool circuit. But my niece told me that this would be a really good book to go over with my teenage daughter. I got a couple copies, so she and I are going to have our own copy because I like to highlight my books. And then because I got the journal, it's got discussion questions already in here, personal study questions to help you think through what you're reading. So I'm hoping to do this first semester with her about 1 chapter a week. There are 16 chapters in here. So yeah, we might have to double up on chapters 1 week, but I think it'll be fine. I mean, we're meeting on Tuesdays for about an hour, an entire week to read 1 chapter. We should be able to handle this. The large sections of the book: know your foundation, know your God, know your position, know your identity, know your stability. And that one includes truth over emotions. That's a huge part of the lies in our society right now too. There's too much talk about trusting your feelings and everything. You can't. The Bible says the heart is desperately wicked. You cannot trust your own feelings and emotions. The only thing you can trust is the truth in the Bible. Using emotions for God's glory, I mean, we should be sensitive towards others, right? But that should all be in conjunction with the truth, not prioritized over the truth. Know your enemy. You got to know your enemy, man. He's crafty, and he is an angel of light. He comes as truth, and he'll spit a little bit of truth at you and then twist it until it's a lie. Know the strategy and know your source of satisfaction. I'm really excited about this because I haven't read this book. And then second semester with my high schooler, my teenage daughter, my high schooler, and I are all going to be reading Made in Our Image by Stephen Lawson. This one does not have a study guide that I know of. If you know of one, please let me know because I would love a study guide. But again, about a chapter a week. Oh, there's only 14 chapters in this book. We should be able to do that then. The premise of this book is all about the attributes of God. It's kind of the same thing, recognizing who God really is versus the God that our culture is saying he is. So the counterfeit God versus the real God. The counterfeit God our culture treats as a Santa Claus. You go to him when you need help. He's there to answer your prayer. He's there to shower you with blessings. And he's like a grandfather type figure who just winks at sin and just like pats you on the head when you do wrong. I understand. No, this is a holy God, and we need to understand who he is. He's bigger than we make him. Our culture tries to say who God is according to us. We're trying to make God in our image. We are made in his image, and we need to understand who he is. This is the foundation of your faith, and if you have a wrong view of God, then you are on sandy ground, my friends. I've read this book. It's actually a very easy read, I think. I read it in my 20s. I think it's a very easy read, but it'll be a thought-provoking read too. And my hope is that it will, for all of us, renew our reverence in a holy God. Holy, it means there is none like him. None. He is not like us. He is holy. Like, you'll never, till eternity, fully understand God. I never understood, like, so many people who claim to be Christians but weren't faithful to church and would say, well, what did you learn on Sunday that you can't learn next Sunday? I can never learn enough about God. He is just way more than my mind can comprehend. So what is my fourth grader going to be doing while I'm doing that with my teenager? I didn't want to leave her out, but honestly, these books are going to be too much for her to handle. She's a fairly new reader. Well, I have this that I bought my very first homeschool conference that I ever went to, and then I never used it. So I don't know if they still make this. This is from generationswithvision.com. This is a Proverbs study for ages 9 and up. My daughter is 10, so this is perfect. Because we've done a study of Psalms 119 with my parents, she's already in the habit of looking up words that she doesn't know what they mean. Chapter 1 of Proverbs, lesson 1, right away, the word perceive. So she's going to have to look these up. Rebuke, what does rebuke mean? And then there's spots here. And then take a look at the verse, then answer the questions. Who wrote most of the book of Proverbs? Verse 1. Verse 4, who are the people who should be listening to these lessons? Verse 7, what is the first basic lesson to learn in the book of Proverbs? Verse 8, who is supposed to teach a child the lessons of wisdom, and so on and so forth. So I think my fourth grader will actually really enjoy going through this Proverbs book on her own. Like, it has a word search at the end of chapter 1. She may or may not do this. To me, this is busy work, so I really don't care if she does this. If she wants to, she can go for it. So there's going to be 31 chapters here. If she goes through this faster, I've got this at a used curriculum sale, but this is from the Knotgrass, Ray and Charlene Knotgrass. I don't know if they still sell this, but this was a Proverbs book where you read the verse and then you draw the picture of what the verse is saying. So she could do this in conjunction with that. And then I also have this character companion for the Miller Family series books. If you've heard of the Miller family, I've seen them a lot at the homeschool convention. We have several of their books, but Christian character is really what they talk about. So responsible. You don't need to read the books along with this, but if you read the books, this is like a what is it, you guys? Is this a complementary curriculum to those books or a supplement? Because you don't need to read the books in order to do this. This is just taking a character quality and asking you to consider it and read certain scriptures and what it says. So I have so many resources for her, and I even have another one, which I will probably do this for her for one of her readers, but my dad got her the Little Pilgrim's Big Journey, Paul Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress Part 2, Christiana in the Celestial City. So last year for our morning time, we read The Dangerous Journey, which is very similar to Pilgrim's Progress. My kids just learned so much. There's so many big vocabulary words there. Timorous was one that stuck with us. I think I mentioned it in a video or two. So I think she'll really enjoy this, and it's very easy. Picture book. So even though it's a very big, thick book, I think she'll be able to handle it because it's basically a picture book. And then he also got her this little coloring book companion to go along with it. She does like to color when I'm doing a read aloud, so, or who knows, maybe I'll read this aloud to all my kids. A Dangerous Journey was pretty good. If you want to see what our plans are for our special days, for Christmas, for holidays, for family co-op, for that kind of stuff, check out this video up here and what I'm doing for my high schooler right here. If you have questions, let me know in the comments below. Till next time, bye.